Let us breathe together as we commune with fresh waters.
I am Jas, the Spirit Nurturer.
I am Jae The Goddexx. Let us breathe together as we commune with fresh waters.
I am Jas, the Spirit Nurturer.
I am Jae The Goddexx.
Peace, peace. Glad you are here as we step into episode 2 that has traveled through the waters of I am as you are. We reflected on service and what that means to be of service, how service has shown up on our journey. In this waters of service, that seems to be this blend, this convergence that harmonizes through respect and through responsibility. So enjoy this episode, enjoy this travel, and be present and witness what comes through for you. Okay, see you there. Of course, enjoying the stillness. Thank you for all who decided to be here, decided to breathe together and to hold this presence. We are going to take 3 Avesa breaths. And inhale Ave into our solar, feeling its strength and joy. Then we are going to exhale Sa, feeling its vibration travel through our chest, the heart, and expand from our truth. Let's begin with the first evasive breath. Inhale Ave. Sa. Inhale Ave. Sa. And we're going to do our final Avesa breath. And remember to smile as you exhale into all that is. Let's do our third one. Inhale Ave. Sa. Truly the presence after the last breath, and then that new breath that follows up to integrate everything we just experienced. I trust you continue to hold this presence as we are all here together and to be with truth. Thank you. Okay, so we have made it here. It's like we traveled through some energy to get here, to settle down.
Let's start by kind of bringing some, amongst the heat that we're in, let's just bring a little heat to our body, just rubbing our hands together just for a little bit. And once you feel like it's enough, let's, connect it to your heart, to our chest. And we're just going to sit here for a minute and be with our natural breath and feel our heart, the rhythm of our heart in resonance with our body. And let's just see how it feels to take one evasive breath to kind of guide us into the conversation. So we're going to inhale Ave and then exhale Saw as we feel this harmonic rhythm. And of course, adding the smile at the end. Okay, let's begin. Sa. It's always that stillness, that moment after the first breath that I feel helps ground. So as we step into this conversation, kind of speaking about why are we here, tuning into this energy of our presence within this, I want to say, lifetime. Thinking about the mantra of I am as you are, and the trueness of how I am to myself is this authentic reflection of how I can be to you. And when we're on the spiritual path, service comes up a lot. How are you being of service? How can I be of service? And it almost turns into this, almost like a rabbit hole of questions of, well, what do I need to do? Like, am I on the right path? Like, am I doing it right? And it's almost like we miss what we've already been and who we've already been and how we've been up until this point. We've missed the ways that we've already been of service, even if we weren't aware of it, even if we didn't have that conscious awareness. We just miss how we've shown up. And it's almost like the way that we show up daily kind of gets masked by these questions. I want to say from the ego, or maybe this doubt or other things that come up. And it's truly just looking at our environment, in what ways our environment has really nurtured this way that we can be of service, nurtures this way of how we are being. And these are kind of like the feelings that are coming up when I think of why am I here? What does it mean to be of service? How am I caring for others? But always in the end, it comes back, how am I caring to myself and how am I being of service to myself? I actually had, before we started this call, I wrote something down. And I feel like it pertains to our conversation today, but thinking about, why am I here and being of service, it kind of reminds me almost like a dream. And, for me, sometimes in my dreams, it's like the longer that I'm there, the more things open up and I can kind of see that awareness, almost like more things unveil. But like in the beginning, it's like I'm just in the midst of the dream. I'm just there. And there's no question of why I'm here. I'm just being. I'm truly being. And I feel like that's how most of us have been on the beginning parts of our journey. We were just being, in the truth, the authenticness of whatever it may have been. And there's no specific way to be when you're on the spiritual journey. But looking at that and seeing how we've come to now having that awareness and that consciousness and now this choice, it really brings up, what do we do with all of this? So with that being said, what feelings are coming up for you and how you want to intend for the guidance of this conversation? What are your intentions, or what is an intention for how you want this conversation of I am as you are to unravel?
I feel for me, the first energy and word that comes to mind is authentic. And bringing an authentic energy to this storytelling today around what my life has meant to me and the service of my life. And I feel like with the authenticity I'm wanting to hold and carry, that sometimes that means that there's discomfort as well. And so I'm also bringing in an energy of discomfort with my authenticity.
Mm. So I definitely resonate with you saying comfort. That has been a word that has been with me, in thinking about this conversation. Um, so I'll just expand on that energy of, my intention is for the unraveling of familiarity. And within that, of course, that comfort in that natural and that easefulness um, to come through. And yeah, I'll leave that there. So with that being said, keeping it really simple, what does it mean to be of service? When we think about, or when you think about stories or experiences that you reflect on, and bringing that now, what does it mean to be of service? Or, what is service to you? And you can expand that on any way, but keeping that really simple. Yeah.
The first story that always comes to my mind when I talk about service, I believe, is the inception for me of really analyzing what is service. And the story that comes to my mind that I've shared before is witnessing my mother. And in Guyana, witnessing her in service as a child, just watching how she serves, I feel is sort of the foundation for me. And when I was little in Guyana, my mother would send me to this old lady who would be walking down the street. She would see her walking past our house and she would send me to go fetch her. And I would always be so terrified to go up to this old lady because she reminded me of a witch. She looked like a witch. She was old, wrinkly, gray hair, humpback, walking by herself along the road. And she happens to live alone as well. So whenever my mother would see her walking past our house, she would tell me to go. She would send me to her and tell me to fetch her to our house. and my mother would feed her and give her food to take with her back to her home. And I would always be so irritated that my mother would send me to this old lady because she scared me. But it was in my, I want to say, apprehension, but still listening to my mother and going and fetching this lady. I saw my first examples of serving and what a life that is devoted to serving looks like. My mother never asked anything from this lady. She would just feed her and send her along her way, taken care of. And so, what is service for me? When I think about service in my life, I come back to my mother and the values that she demonstrated to me that I can recognize have a very deep root inside of me. And the root is just wanting to see people cared for, that they are well off, that they are taken care of, and that their needs are met. And that when needs are met and people are in their well-being, that is a satiating feeling of goodness and happiness, pleasure and enjoyment within myself, knowing that the people around me are well, including myself. So I think for me, service and serving has been this unraveling energy of my life, teaching me what it looks like to serve myself and community and how we are entangled in each other's needs and liberation, and how we feed each other, and really understanding the connection of feeding each other. What does that look like?
Service. To be honest, it wasn't until I became really conscious of my spiritual journey that service was a question or thought that was something I can reflect on or think about. Because before this consciousness and, awareness, I've witnessed and seen that, at least for me, the way that I've lived has always been the service, And I'll be honest, it wasn't until I kind of had this awareness and consciousness, oh, I'm on the spiritual journey. Oh, I got a mission. Oh, I got things I got to get done. That was when I started questioning, my service, questioning, what is service and how can I be of service, and thinking of service, it reminds me of the different jobs that I've worked. And it's interesting how the society presents service. I was going to say convoluted way of service, through working. And I want to say a guilt piece too for some parts of it. But through every job that I was going to say meshed with, and I've chosen to work with my natural gift of service always presented itself. And now I can't articulate it. I'm thinking of, one job. I remember asking, I was actually leaving the job, or it was like for my time to leave. And one of the women I was working with, she was older. I guess I'll consider her like almost like an elder. And I think I was asking her, are you happy? Because that was something I would always ask people at every job I went to, because personally within me, I wasn't really happy with those positions. So I just felt called to ask other people, like, are you happy? Like, do you thoroughly enjoy this? Um, but yeah, when I asked this woman if she was happy, from what I can remember now, I think she was just content. Like she was settled, like it was perfectly fine. Um, and of course, I didn't understand that. I'm like, despite your age, you don't have to do this. Like, you can, there's other, how can we get your happiness to emerge? Like, how can we reveal it? And I've learned to respect journeys, and I learned as part of my service in what I can provide. Um, there's that agreement of if the flower has blossomed and you aren't attracted to the sense of it, then I cannot just throw it in your face. And when I think of like, what is service, it was those moments of, asking people outside of me, about their happiness and about where they're currently at, of truly asking myself within. Like I'm trying to unravel, trying to blossom a flower within them, but what about my flower? Like what about me looking at the flowers and reflecting on my name as a flower of when am I going to do that? And when am I going to be respectful of the service to me? So thinking of what does it mean to like be of service, it's truly of the service I bring to myself. And it truly wasn't until recently I noticed when I am completely holistically like 100% caring for me, it's like a natural, that overflow of now I'm able to care for other people because I have that wisdom through the experience. Being in this vessel and me choosing to come at this in this point of time in this lifetime, um, I know that I have a lot of wisdom and a lot of knowledge, but I also need to experience it within this body. Like this body needs to go through the experience to almost unlock the wisdom, unlock it. And I've accepted that. But I've witnessed it, and that's the service. That is what I noticed, and that was very hard for me to notice before, because I'm like, I have to be of service to other people before myself. I see so many people, I can see the truth, I can see these things, but just because I could see it doesn't mean that I'm supposed to do something about it, This is a thought I had last night, just because I can see, doesn't mean I have to speak about it, It's like holding presence for it. Okay, it's been revealed, it's been aware, it's now sensed. I can hold presence for it. Let's see where the energy guides. So I'm complete with my part in the story. That brings me to this like next question of responsibility, you know, of knowing of how we define and how we see service. How do we feel responsible or responsible for care? Do we feel that responsibility? And, what experience, have we went through where it revealed to us, this is what it means to be responsible, or I need to be responsible. So that's the next question I see coming up. Experience or story that reveals that.
I feel like with that prompt, there's this really big ship that wants to float out of my belly, and it's my ancestors. I think that's a very like triggering question for me of being responsible and what do I feel responsible for? And what comes forward for me is this migration history of my ancestors and being responsible to respond, and the privilege that I have right now, actually taking a look at that privilege and my ability to respond. And so I kind of brought up my ancestors, and I talked about this boat wanting to come out of my belly. And I talk about this migration history. And I bring that up because as you were asking that prompt, the images that I was seeing were of this boat and this body of water, and seeing my ancestors moving from one land to another land to the land I'm on now. And recognizing that I am the surviving artifact of a piece of history. And in many ways, I'm probably not supposed to be alive. Ratchet Indian. You know? Not to get political or anything. But the very breath that I have, it's an honor for me. And there's a responsibility that I feel with this breath that I have to respect the history and the stories and the survivorship of my ancestors. Because now I am in a position of mobility because of my ancestors. And that's the privilege I was talking about before. The privilege that I have, the ability I have to respond. And so my responsibility comes first and foremost to my ancestors, because they got me here. And my service is to the collective liberation, because we got ourselves here. And my ability to respond to our collective liberation was shown to me by my ancestors who got me here. So in many ways, I feel like my service and my duty and my responsibility is to my ancestors, because they are guiding my life. And they are showing me the service my life was meant for. And a big part of that has to do with my mother showing me how to care for the people around me when I see there is a need that I can meet. So I feel like that's how those things kind of come in convergence for me as we talk about responsibility and service together.
The first thought that comes to me in being responsible, a responsibility and service and to care is like this outside should. You should be doing this, like you should be responsible for this. And I'm thinking about it's like a multitude, like many different stories of where I knew like truth, where I knew I could see what it was, and I had a responsibility for that, despite in the current moment when that truth was not seen. um Makes me think about, just friendships, relationships, and for me as a healer, um, and growing up being a people pleaser, that but as a healer and kind of growing up being a people pleaser or going through that experience, the many relationships, and when I say relationships, that's, platonic or, like literally relations with other people, I've always felt this responsibility to care and to be of service to them because I could see what they were going through. And it kind of relates to like, my first story of, wanting to ask people who I work with, are you happy? What do you really want to do in life? All these different things, and wanting to blossom that flower within. Um, I've learned to truly be responsible and care and of service is to be, again, respectful of of the other, of other beings, of me. Um, and if there isn't this knock on the door of the other, why am I opening it up? Why am I opening up your door when it's locked when you haven't knocked on my door to open? And that sounds kind of confusing, but truly, if we don't have this conscious agreement, then my responsibility and care and of service is a lack of. There's like this perception that I felt of like, well, if I feel like I can help you, then I'm gonna help you. Like I'm gonna be of service to you. Like if I feel like I can care for you, then I'm gonna care for you. But not everybody wants that. um, and I've learned that, and being grateful to have gone through that phase of wanting to please people. And it's not a thing of for the ego to please, but it's like literally like almost being highly sensitive and sensing the energy and like, okay, well, how can I be of service to this energy? Like, how can I cleanse this energy? Because that's really what it was of like, how can I cleanse this energy? How can I? Because I feel responsible. But as a lot more wiser now and truly being conscious and seeing my responsibility, at times it's extremely tough to, it feels like this parent and child relationship of being the quote unquote mature one, or being the one that knows that, I guess it's like that piece of removing the pride, if that, is it. But the responsibility that I see, and similar to what you said of, it's truly that, how am I responding? What wisdom do I have to respond in this moment? And I feel like that is the service. And I know, yeah, you touched on it of like, the response is the service. The response is the care. It's not that this is the end of like, I need to do this. It's like, what's within me? What can I do to interact with this energy instead of like filtering the energy as to what I think it needs to be filtered how it needs to be filtered. Yeah, so yeah, now I want to say of being a I want to say ancient soul. I feel like we're ancient souls truly. And coming in these vessels at certain, different times in this timeline or dimension. Um and just like seeing truth and knowing truth and being responsible for truth. Because like the longer that we're on this journey, or for what I've seen, the longer that I've been on this journey, more things have like unveiled themselves and revealed themselves, and all that energy makes me think about spiritual activism. All that spiritual activism, like energy that I felt before, has literally dispersed, and I feel it's like this true, like a sea of neutrality. Like it's so neutral to like see the truth of everything, or to be that witness, to stand up and to be witnessing, to see all that. I feel like my responsibility of service is to, literally what we just said, like, what can I, how am I interacting with the energy? That's how I see it, of my interaction with this energy. And that's how I'm caring for it. It's not like bulldozing the energy of like, this is what I'm going to do to you. It's like almost like transmuting, like hugging, like interlocking with the energy. And sometimes it feels extremely uncomfortable. Um, Especially to like the ego and the mind, because sometimes I don't want to do it. Sometimes I don't want to do it. But yeah, that's what it is that the ability to respond, or with the wisdom that I have now, how am I responding? And respecting. Respond and respect is just this of already knowing the truth, but how am I reacting to it? How am I guess it's that response, not react, but yeah, I'm complete, and I'll keep my sharing in that experience right there. Okay. Before we get into weaving our experiences and stories, let's take a breath to integrate all that we shared. Connect your hand to your body wherever you feel called to now. Let's just do that one evasive breath. Inhale Ave and exhale Saw, intentional with a smile. Okay. So sitting on this landscape that we just created of why we are here, through the I am as you are, how do you see us weaving? How do you see the weaving of our stories together? I'm seeing us sitting down and like braiding together. So how are we braiding? What do you see? What story or experience have I shared? Do you see the resonance of what you've gone through?
So the piece that really stood out for me was the last piece you were saying, and I quote, with the wisdom I have now, how am I responding and respecting? And that statement really resonated a lot with me, because I feel like with that statement, what it's prompting me to notice is that within me, I have a lot of abilities within me. And without getting too political about ableist culture, the ability to respond that you were talking about is the wisdom that I have in me. and how that is connected to the story I shared about seeing what the need is and responding to the need. And so I'm really kind of resonating a lot with wisdom, and especially because you use the word wisdom, because it points to us recognizing that within ourselves there is wisdom, and we have capacity to respond with wisdom, and that our service in the response is harnessing our wisdom. And that comes back to this conscious creation of our experience for ourselves and for each other. So I'm really resonating a lot with that, and resonating with this energy that we are co-creating with our stories, because it's a landscape for recognizing that we have wisdom to respond in a way where we are serving the need of each other. And I think that's really powerful.
Ooh, thank you. You know, for the two stories that you shared, I feel the weaving of both of them. And I'll start with the first, with your mama, with your mother, with your mom, and you shared about her request, or her, I was going to say, the command of energy that you participate in the service of life. That made me think of my mom, and how I witnessed her. I mean, just, I feel like just being a mother, like that is the service, because it's like this authentic nurture, you know, this just there's this scene and this intuition of being able to be of service to those who may not have the activation to speak it, you know. And I'm touching my throat right now, and you know, yeah, I witnessed my mom just be of service to many people. And of course, I see her, and well, obviously, see her and me. I mean, I am as she is. Um, and that brings me to the ancestral story also that you shared. Um, you know, as I am my mother, of course, I am my ancestors. And there is something that sparked, or more so answered the question within. I shared this with you before, and when we had a call, and it was about how, you know, we are, or I am my great grandmother. Like, I am. And I truly feel that, you know, because, you know, speaking of ancestors, it's like, oh, we got to do this because of our ancestors, or like, you know, we got to do these things. And, but it's like, I am my ancestor. Like, I am. And now that I'm in this energy that allows me to fulfill those things that my ancestors could not maybe completely fulfill, then that is, yeah, that is my responsibility. You know, that is that wisdom. And I feel like there's that moment of really recognizing that, like truly seeing it. You know, thinking about the ways that my mother has been of service, the ways that my father has been of service, you know, my grandmothers, and seeing all this wisdom in, I was gonna say, information that they have, whether they're truly conscious of it or not, but just being as they are, in me kind of witnessing that. Now I see what I really am here to do. And now I see like why I'm really here, like what I gotta do. And yeah, that's, yeah, those two, you know, the mama and the ancestors, I mean, I'm going to say divine feminine energy that you share within your stories, like that really unlocked. And um, I am present with and I see within my life. Um, and I feel like there's like something else that's coming up. I guess like more specifically, if I didn't mention this already, I wrote down, authentic service. I say that, or if we didn't say that. But yeah, that authentic service, that natural, that being, that present service that your mother shared and that was appreciated. Um, and I'll just share this last piece of, it's interesting living in this society, in this world, and, you know, witnessing the, the experience of, I was going to say, I guess the witnessing pain. I'm just going to say that. Yeah, witnessing pain, like that is very, to be present with pain. And I had this thought the other day, I'm sure it was last night, but of this, how as much as I enjoy happiness, I enjoy sadness. Like I enjoy both of them like equally. And it makes me think of as much as I enjoy pleasure, I enjoy the pain. Um, and you know, integrating the service, I guess it's honor. Yeah. I mean, again, honoring all aspects of service of, my service is to respond to this pain, maybe through that presence. It's not always about physically, like, what can I physically do? Um, but that energy of it. And, I'm thinking like, oh, what's the pleasurable piece of it? Well, that pleasurable piece I feel like is that witnessing of, that pain, like, because there's something that comes out on the other end, seeing the wholeness of it, of like entering first through the pain and like traveling through it, and then like it transmutes into pleasure, and like you see the other end. I feel like that's kind of how the service shows up. But yeah, that's how I see, or that's how I've seen the weaving of the story that you shared. And yeah, I'm complete and I'll keep that there. So this was this was a great like ceremonial discussion because I know we can expand on this so much more. And I'm so excited for all of the beings, all of those who are listening to really, oof, like I really want to see what is birthed from this. So before we leave, what are you feeling like? What energy do you want to be placed here once we complete this call?
Expansion, expansion of service, expansion of consciousness, expansion of receptivity, expansion of the pleasure of pain, expansion of the transmutation of shadow and darkness into the light of service, expansion.
Ooh, ooh, I love that. you know, um, Adding to that energy of expansion, I'm feeling the recognition, like that recog, like really recognizing. And you saying shadow and darkness to the light, you just automatically made me think of like this masculine and feminine energy, or feminine and masculine energy, and how present that is within service, like the harmony of that. Oof, okay. So let's deal with some breaths. I know we felt that all. We're gonna need to move around after this, but let's integrate it, within this space. I'm feeling the currently I'm sitting down, we're sitting down. I'm feeling that portal, like if you could see me, that portal that's shooting straight down, like I'm feeling that, and allowing just that to feed in us to like that relationship, that service. Okay. So connecting our hands to our heart, we're going to do 3 evasive breaths. Inhaling into the stomach, really intentional with feeling that I want to say power, but really just feeling and expanding into it. And then exhaling, saw, again, moving through that chest, through the throat, in speaking it. So let's do it. Let's begin. Sa. Let's do the second one. Sa. And let's complete with the third evasive breath. And remember to smile and to feel that authenticity within that breath through your smile. Okay, let's do it. Sa. And as we completely integrate this ceremony, this conversation, it's truly honoring and respecting and all that is in the choices that we've made. In being present with it all and allowing whatever waters that come together, let them be, but also use your wisdom in how you can harmonize and be with them. So until we speak again, peace out, y'all.
Thank you for holding presence with us through this entire episode. Now, I know this was a journey, so please, we encourage you, if you feel that calling, reach out, send us an email at symbioticwaters@gmail.com if anything has come through or any story that you may want to share. Otherwise, you can connect with us on Instagram or TikTok, also at Symbiotic Waters. And then you can see us on YouTube at Moving Earth Convergent Waters. If you want to continue to commune with us through these episodes, through these conversations, we encourage you to join our private membership on Coffee at Freshwater Society, where we're watering our collective wisdom to thrive together. Almost like we're flying through this exploration of interdependence. But if you feel that calling, definitely honor it, and we'll see you there.